Hey everyone, Duke here, and today we are going to take a look at the new seasonal artifact mods for Season of the Lost. This season's artifact is the Wayfinder's Compass, and can be received by running through and completing the opening seasonal story mission that launches when you first log into Destiny for the first time this season. As with every new season, there is a new set of champion mods to talk about to start us off. For Season of the Lost, we have only one anti-barrier option, that being anti-barrier auto rifle. With the last two seasons giving us anti-barrier sniper and anti-barrier scout respectively, auto rifles are almost certainly a step down in terms of strength, but still not bad in their own right. Also note that Ariana's Vow is always an option for safe barrier breaking, and may again become a staple for teams to have at least one Ariana's user for Grandmaster Nightfall specifically. Also, the Lament is the other exotic anti-barrier option that we always have, and with passive guard back, I'll talk about this mod a bit later, that will certainly open the door for swords to be potentially strong champion options. For Overload champions, we have two weapon options, Overload Bow and Overload Swords through Disrupting Blade. Bows are almost certainly the most consistent and safest overload option we have ever had in previous seasons, and I expect that to be no different this season. Swords are going to be scary to use in some cases, but again, with passive guard being available and proper care and use, they can be extremely useful and in some cases by far the best possible option to deal with overloads. There is always the option as well in team-based content to have one bow user or divinity as another option to stun an overload from a distance and allow your other teammates to get up close to finish off the target. Finally, for unstoppables, we have three options this season: pulse rifles, sidearms, and fusion rifles, which also includes linear fusion rifles. Pulse rifles are a solid and safe option to use for unstoppables as always, with sidearms very unlikely to get much use. Fusion and linear fusion rifles have never had a champion mod before, and while I don't personally think that they will be quite as strong as grenade launchers were last season, although really, what could be, they could very well become highly used due to this mod, all of the fusion rifle updates for this season, as well as a fusion rifle mod I will talk about later. And don't forget that the newly buffed Vex Mythoclast is a fusion rifle as well, for those lucky enough to have it. The second and third columns contain mostly seasonally cheaper versions of mods that we already have permanent versions of, other than Passive Guard, which I will talk about last here. First we have Hands On, which gives bonus super energy on melee kills. Next is Shotgun Dexterity, a great mod that usually costs 5, but now only costs 1 and allows for faster ready and stow speed for shotguns. There is also Sidearm Dexterity, which does the same, but for sidearms. Sword Scavenger gives your swords larger bonus reserves when picking up ammo, which will go great with the other sword mods this season. Just remember that new for this season, double scavengers will no longer have an effect, so don't try to stack 2 of these or any other scavenger mod. Fusion Rifle and Auto Rifle Loader are pretty obvious ones, both increasing the reload speed of your fusion rifles and auto rifles respectively. We also have Linear Fusion Rifle Targeting, which improves target acquisition, accuracy, and aim down sight speed for linear fusion rifles. And Fusion Scavenger, which increases your bonus reserves when picking up ammo for a fusion or linear fusion rifle. Finally, for this section, we have Passive Guard. This mod is an absolute must-use whenever you use a sword this season, and has always helped push swords into the forefront in previous seasons that it has been a mod option. One of, if not the biggest drawbacks of using swords, is the danger of getting close to and being on top of your enemy, and this mod allows for you to receive less damage from any combatants that are close to you when wielding a sword. And as swords, other than caster frames I suppose, are melee weapons, you will always get this effect whenever you are using your sword to go after combatants. We even have 2 Nightfalls this season where swords have been used to great effect in the past for that extra cherry on top, in Lake of Shadows and Exodus Crash. In the fourth column, we have Unstoppable Fusion Rifle, which we have already talked about. Next is Withering Heat, a 6 energy cost mod which allows for solar ability damage to weaken champions for a short duration. At a first glance, this seems similar to something like Oppressive Darkness, only with solar instead of void, and can be used with any solar ability. The downside compared with Oppressive Darkness is that it only works on champions. It certainly won't have the uptime of recent debuffs, especially something like Breach and Clear from last season, and I think this will be a useful mod, if not completely must use literally 100% of the season type of a mod like Breach and Clear was. Resonance Siphon is next, which is a mod we've had a couple times, and allows you to gain stasis ability energy whenever you or a member of your fire team stuns a champion. I've never really used this mod personally in the past, but as this mod only costs 2, and with how the total mod energy costs are aligning, I could actually see myself using this quite a bit in any situation where I'm running my Warlock Stasis turret build for even more turret uptime. Next is Thermoclastic Strike, which costs 3 energy and allows for solar and stasis melees to stun Overload champions. It also will refresh your melee ability whenever you or a member of your fire team stuns an Overload champion. This mod is reasonably intriguing to me, honestly, but I do have 2 concerns. First, any non-ranged melee is pretty much a no-go for underleveled content, as you certainly don't want to be going in actual melee range of an Overload champion when underleveled, or really at any time. My second concern is with something like Warlock Stasis melee, it also freezes, which tends to somewhat break the Overload stun, so I'm interested to see if that interaction has been cleaned up at all, or if it becomes somewhat unusable due to how Overload and Freeze interact. For the final mod in the 4th column, we have Fire and Ice, which states that defeating a champion spawns a random array of solar and stasis wells. A big problem with elemental wells that we have currently is being able to actually go and get the wells that are created, especially with how finicky the timing of them actually spawning can be. But having a very deterministic way to spawn what sounds like a bunch of wells when killing a champion could be interesting, especially with the next mod I'm about to talk about. That next mod is called Well of Potency, which is a 5 energy cost mod that grants you super energy when picking up a matching elemental well. I assume this means matching your subclass, and when combined with Fire and Ice could make for some potent solar or stasis build potential, along with multiple of the other mods this season promoting solar and stasis subclass gameplay. The kicker here will obviously be just how much super we actually get for picking up one of these wells, but this is a mod that could be absolutely nutty if the super energy that gives us is high enough, or basically useless if it only gives us a tiny fraction of your super. Pyretic Embrace is another solar subclass-based mod, this time restoring you to full health and shields instantly when casting a solar super. I don't see this mod having much use in PvE quite honestly, but could make for some interesting outplay or turnaround potential in PvP, but obviously will not have much uptime either way as it relies on having your super. Next is Thermoclastic Blooming, which allows your solar or stasis melees to create an orb of power when defeating an opponent, continuing with the solar and stasis theme. When combined with Thermoclastic Strike, I could see this having some build combo potential. There's also ways to refresh your melees through either exotics or running high strength. I'm not sure I'm sold on it, but at the very least it definitely has some fun build potential. Focusing Lens is a mod that allows for your light abilities to do bonus damage to combatants affected by stasis. This is a very team-focused mod, as you can't run both stasis and light abilities at the same time as one person, obviously, but the last time this mod was available, it was an absolutely top-tier mod for a very specific reason, if it hasn't been patched. This mod gives a 25% damage boost to all light abilities. However, when standing in a well, all of your damage is considered ability damage, at least it has been in the past. And as mentioned, I don't know if this has been patched since, or patched specifically to no longer work with this mod, but if it still works, this mod is absolutely nutty, and a must-have in raid content especially. And better yet, we didn't have the stasis turret last time this mod was available, which can allow for one single person to keep for pretty much permanent uptime on a boss. Definitely keep this mod in mind as we are able to test it again for this season. And lastly, we have Particle Deconstruction. This is a really interesting mod that allows for dealing damage with a fusion rifle or linear fusion rifle to grant bonus damage with fusion rifles or linear fusion rifles against that combatant for a short duration, and it stacks up to 5 times. The way this reads is if 5 people were to be running this mod, and all running fusion or linear fusion rifles, you could instantly stack this effect up to 5 times. Now we don't know if this stacks with something like Weapons of Light, or if 5 stacks gives you a buff that is bigger than Weapons of Light, but this is definitely a mod I am super intrigued to check out once I get it unlocked and get to test it. I don't think there has ever been a season with this much intrigue in terms of new and potentially strong mods combined with returning super strong mods from the past. I am so excited to try out all of these mods, and honestly, as much as I loved Breach and Clear last season, I'm happy that there is going to be a bit more variety this time around. I hope this video was interesting for you all, and as always, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.